Up and at 'em, kids, as we get going on a Wednesday, noon o'clock here at the 107.5 The Game Studios. Beautiful, 1301 Gervais Street in downtown Columbia, whereas I was coming in, nice and smooth. The kids are out of school right now. We're kind of in that full summertime feel, Tyler had that full summertime feel where you just, last night, I don't know. We're just out of everything. I watched the NBA draft. Hadn't watched the NBA draft in years.
Yeah, I watched about half of it, and the Braves didn't play till 10 o'clock last night. So I was like, all right, you got really nothing else to watch. But, yeah, you're kind of getting to that point of the year where it's like, okay, you have an MLB team to follow that can keep you entertained for the evening. But for the most part, it's just kind of scarce for the next couple months.
It's kind of wishing for college football season, but you don't want to wish the summer away. Enjoy your time at the beach. Enjoy your time at the lake. Enjoy your summertime with the kids or whatever it is you do. Take trips to the zoo, whatever it may be. But, yeah, we'll certainly get you through here. What did I hear y'all say earlier today? 70 y'all did, it felt like two numbers, 73 days, but 72, you were doing the number 72? But
No, 73 days. I was asking them for their suggestion for 72 tomorrow.
Gotcha,
so,
okay.
Because we're in that window between 79 and 60. We're primarily dealing with offensive linemen. So you got to get a little bit more creative when you come up with trivia questions with that kind of stuff. So I'm always going to defer to them like, hey, 72 from the 2018 that's interesting, let me know.
Yep. All right, that's what was going on as I got in the car and was listening to y'all a little bit. So we're counting down the days. I do want to circle back. I thought that was an interesting conversation as I got in and was listening to y'all. Good tease, good professional tease. It kept me around on the Nick Harbor situation and what article was written on CBS. I want to come back to that because and I don't want to say I'm part of the problem because I got out of being part of the problem, but there is an issue I have with the what y'all talked about. I have all of a sudden a major issue with that, and we'll circle back to that, and I want to get into that. World Cup, Tony Annan will finally join. Finally.
So he ducked you last week? Is that what happened?
He is just standing us up left and right. He is ignoring us. He's going to soccer matches. He's having a blast. I don't think he had a blast yesterday. If I understood correctly, and this is part of the reason we're having him on, England was not happy with their performance against Ghana yesterday. Very bad. 0-0. A nil tie, if you will. Draw. Sorry, nil draw, if you will. We in America call it a 0-0 tie. But I understand that was not the way that they wanted it set up. And so we'll talk with him, but also get his thoughts on what he's seen from the American team, which, with everything going on with Christian Pulisic and a younger kind of team, it seems dysfunctional, but it's working. It seems dysfunctional to me, but it seems to be working, and they're all pulling together for each other when they're on the pitch for 90 minutes. Hey, I like all those soccer terms.
It's kind of one of those things that until given reason to think otherwise, we can be optimistic, right? Like America's not used to being in the spot when it comes to the World Cup, and even tomorrow night's game is it Turkey A, Turkey I? I forget how you pronounce the name of that. Regardless, that game has no bearing. They've already locked up the group. Whatever happens tomorrow night doesn't matter. You'd love to see them win, obviously, but they're going to go into the elimination stage facing a third-place team from another group, which obviously sets up well for them. So you're kind of playing with house money, and you can feel good for roughly about another week until you start playing those serious elimination games.
That's right. So we'll talk with Tony Anna coming up at 12:30. We finally, I think, have nailed him down. I think. You never know with Tony. He's a sneaky one. And next thing you know, he's traveling somewhere else. But we plan to catch up with him, and then we'll get you through the rest of the day. We got start tomorrow. We'll start some of our SEC football countdown. David Waters will join us tomorrow to look at Florida. Chris Plank will join us next week. Today, out in Norman, they are doing the celebration. It's parade time. It's celebration time for the national championship winning baseball team. So that, I think, officially puts an end. You get the parade, the ticker tape, the nice cars and everything, and Oklahoma will cruise down the streets in Norman and celebrate a championship. Speaking of which, in the NCAA, news yesterday, a little bit of news of a bunch of things yesterday after you left. We had the Brendan Sorsby news. There will be no NFL supplemental draft for him. We'll talk about that because I'm curious to hear your take on that. You know, the general consensus being nobody felt bad for him almost. No, there's nobody going, oh, man, the poor guy's not going to get a shot except for Jeffrey Kessler, his attorney, who I think is doing the job that he's supposed to do to get paid.
Well, that's been their defense for everything, right? It's like, all right, we didn't like that ruling. We're just going to take it to court. And here's the thing for me. The NFL is not denying his ability to play in the NFL, right? He can still enter the 2027 NFL draft. They're denying his ability to enter the NFL immediately. As of right now, he's going to have to sit out the fall. He will not be playing football anywhere. He can still train, still get ready and all that kind of stuff and still go on to potentially have a successful career. But for the first time in this process, he's finally kind of being held accountable for these actions like, hey, you did these things that these sports leagues don't find to be good and, compromising to the integrity of the game. You're going to have to serve punishment for it. And in the NFL's eyes, that means sitting out the 2026 football season and waiting to be drafted coming up in late April or early May next year.
I'll be interested to see when we circle back around to that if indeed I don't know if collusion is the right word to use, but if there is an effort that amongst the teams that say like, no, we're not going to deal with him. He's not welcome in this league. It is funny where we draw the line on what is truly taboo and what is not. And I hate to say it like this, but I'm going to state it out loud. You know, at times in the NFL, it's like you assaulted a woman. Okay, we'll deal with you. We'll figure. Oh, you gambled on the game. No, sir, not in our league. Oh, but you hit a woman? Yeah. We'll figure it out. Don't you worry about it.
Well,
which is I can't wrap my mind around that.
And there's no way to make this sound good.
No, there's no way I say I can make it sound good.
But it's like, okay, one of these does directly affect the game on the field, and one doesn't. And again, when you have a guy with Sorsby that was betting on his own team back in the day when he was at Indiana, that's different than a domestic situation that happens on the field. Again, that sounds terrible.
Exactly.
That is the way I think the NFL views this, is like one of these compromises the integrity of football you see on Sunday, and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, it's I guess, was Ray Rice the last one that really got kind of blackballed, banned for
in terms of
assault on a female?
In terms of not coming back at all, I think so.
Yeah.
And that the way the NFL handled that was disastrous because they had the tape. They didn't think the tape was going to get out, and they were going to give him a 2-game suspension. The tape got out. Then they had to go more, and I thought that was going to be the end of Roger Goodell at that point in time. He survived it somehow. But, yeah, they grossly mishandled that whole thing.
So, anyway, but there's a little bit on the Sorsby situation. The other news that we'll get into later on today, because I'm interested to hear Tyler's take. I'm interested if y'all want to weigh in. Because I'm trying to wrap my mind around what the new NCAA eligibility rule does. 5-5 now. It has been, Tyler, I'm not picking on you. You just turned 30, last week, I believe, 2 weeks ago, last week. So for really the last 7 years, the better part of your life, you've seen wild stuff with eligibility. Like, no offense to Luke Doty, but I think, you know what, Doty got 6 years. We got a guy where is he now, from Miami, that is on year number 9?
Oh, McCormick. I think he's actually finally done. But he was in college football for 9 years between Oregon and Miami.
Yeah, we have seen wild stuff, trying to figure out what years guys are. You know, are they super seniors, redshirt seniors, regular seniors, whatever it is. And so for you, for the better part of your your professional life covering this, eligibility has been one huge question mark, and now we're going to enter a world where I think they've actually got it narrowed down.
Well, it's kind of been the running joke when we talk about guys coming in from the transfer portal and all the guys and girls on all these sports that we cover here locally. It's like, okay, this person's a junior. Does that mean they have one more year? Do they have a COVID year? How's this going to work? And now I think it's going to be more straightforward? Do we even refer to them by their class anymore? Or is it like, all right, this is a year 3 person, this person's year 4, they're coming in for year 5? Like, it seems to be a lot more straightforward now. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be without its litigation, because I'm sure there's going to be some challenges to this with injuries and stuff like that people are going to try and make their cases for. But it seems to be, and again, it's been trending this way for a while, where the NCAA says, hey, no waivers, none of this, COVID extra years of eligibility. You come in either after high school or once you turn 19 and your clock starts, and then you go from there, and that's it.
Yeah, we'll discuss that a little bit and go down that path a little bit as to what exactly that means. Also, the NBA draft last night, fairly interesting from some standpoints if you get into the NBA and the way things kind of played out. Dusty May celebrating like crazy. Interesting, my son kept, and I don't really know the rule on this. I don't exactly know the rule on this in terms of, well, Dusty May's now with the Mavericks, and you saw him sitting there, and it looked the way that they were showing it is that he was having to sit kind of like his back against the wall, like kind of a weird position. But almost celebrating when his guys were drafted, but he couldn't go join them and just like hug them and give them a high five. And I had never really thought about that. Like, he's the coach of the Mavericks. I get it. It looked. Now that I think about it actually out loud, it looked like he was in New Jersey, but now that I think about it, maybe he was in Dallas, just in a very uncomfortable seat, uncomfortable position. But who knows? But all in all, last night, NBA draft, something that I used to really get into. It's now a 2-night event, by the way. They finish up night number 2. Not as much fun this year because we're not following a South Carolina player. But it was interesting last night.
Yeah, not a whole lot of surprises. I mean, you kind of looked at the mocks going in, and it ended up kind of being exactly what it was. You could have maybe made a debate, hey, is Darren Peterson going to fall a little bit because of the character stuff at Kansas? That didn't obviously end up happening. Devonta going number 1 overall, not surprising at all. And, yeah, it's just kind of a straightforward draft for the most part.
So we'll get into all of that this afternoon. And, again, Tony Ann said to join us. We'll talk a little World Cup as that yesterday. The last 2 days really has been very interesting because you've really, Tyler, the thing about the World Cup, and maybe this happens every 4 years, and I forget after it happens, or we all forget, or we don't pay enough attention in this country. But it truly feels like the stars are shining. The true stars are shining in the World Cup with Eric Haaland and Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe and everybody. I mean, they're scoring goals left and right.
Right.
And the stars, the true guys that are the stars of soccer, that are the I mean, we think, LeBron James is a star. LeBron James is puny compared next to these guys. Like these guys, and they are actually living up to all the potential and scoring goals and living up to superstardom at least through the first 2 weeks of this of this World Cup.
Yeah, that's kind of what you expect, right? You tune in, and again,
I don't know.
That's what I expect at least, because again, this is the showcase of the best from all around the world. So when you're watching these teams play, you expect like those guys that you named off to be the ones showing out for their respective countries, especially as they play, teams that aren't quite on their level. Like, yeah, I fully expect Mbappe to score multiple goals against teams that are inferior to him and all that kind of stuff. But, I'm not surprised that it's been kind of a showcase of those big superstar names that we're used to talking about in soccer.
Yeah, I guess maybe I go the other way, kind of like you get into a World Series and you see like Aaron Judge go 3 of 19, 3 of 21, and doesn't live up to who exactly he is. But we'll get into all of that this afternoon. Oh, boy. All right, real quick. Okay, good. Tony Annan says he's ready when we are. So we'll get him coming up at 12:30 this afternoon in about 15 minutes. We'll come back, get into a little bit more Gamecock football, talk a few other things, and get set for some World Cup talk with Tony Annan. You're listening to The Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. You know the company that takes care of you, is taking care of us, taking care of the state of South Carolina for over 30 years, being the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. That's who Mid-State Roofing is. And the reason, that customer service they provide. You hear me talk about it each and every day. Of course, Mid-State Roofing is phenomenal at their job. Of course, they keep your operation dry and running long into the future with the way they do things, because at Mid-State Roofing, they believe the customer comes first. That's why they are open and available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter what hour of the night. You give them a phone call, you'll speak with an on-call technician ready to help you with a leak you may have and some customer service and maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, it's 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. It is 12:20. Big clock right in front of me. I should have no problem looking at it, being able to read it properly on your Wednesday. Bill Gunner, Tyler Head. And for South Carolina football yesterday, it was kind of interesting. While we were on air, South Carolina picked up a commitment from 6'5", 290-pound James Ross, offensive lineman from Ridgeview High School, that they will look at across the line, all 5 positions, mainly from what I read last night. They would like him to start out at the center position and then kind of work his way, say, okay, all right, can you do this? Can you do that? And then, okay, no, you can't do that. Let's try you at guard, and then maybe even tackle a guy with athleticism that could do all of it. I may have to poke my head out for 2 seconds real quick, Tyler, and yell at Wes Mitchell, who's out there, and then get the name, the official name of what I believe is Ivion Lewis, the wide receiver that last night, South Carolina, flips from Kentucky, 6'2", 195 pounds.
I'm going to go with Ivion. That seems to probably be the likely way. But, yeah, and look, this is a 2027 class that's been building quite a bit here recently. We talk about it a lot with Wes and Chris on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. And maybe it was one that got off to a bit of a slower start, but seems to kind of have been hitting its stride a little bit here as of late, as Bill is getting that official confirmation on how we pronounce that name. What's the official report?
Ivion.
Okay, makes sense.
All right, yeah. Well, we're going Wes. It's all Wes now. Whatever we say, if y'all are like morons, no, you blame Wes Mitchell. But he was out there in the hallway. But Ivion Lewis. But yeah, to the point, it's an interesting look as a guy who's followed recruiting, and we're going to circle back to this on the Nick Harbor thing because. I was listening to you guys talk about Nick Harbor and this CBS article about whether he's a bust or not. And it wasn't any of y'all that upset me. It wasn't you or Chris or Wes. But as I was listening to y'all talk, it really grinded my gears, if you will, on what we were talking about with Nick Harbor. But going back to the recruiting thing, and a guy who worked with Chris and Wes for a long time. If it wasn't for Chris, I wouldn't have gotten into recruiting and then doing stuff with J.C. Sherbert for a long time and being a recruiting geek myself and 3 stars and 4 stars and so forth and so on. But I look at this recruiting class right now, and I'll be honest, Tyler, it's not a bad recruiting class. It's a class that it's a class that maybe back in the day I'd have been like, I like this. It's a developmental class. I don't know if you can recruit developmental classes anymore in college football with the way the transfer portal works. If a kid doesn't come in, the me first attitude of the majority of kids, if I don't play within the first 2 years, I'm going to go find somewhere that allows me to play. Even if that school ends up not allowing me to play and they just promise it, I'm going to go there anyway. That bothers me because, quite frankly, yeah, you go, well, it's not a bad class. You can develop them. But you know what? You're in a conference right now where the majority of the conference is elite recruiters bringing in elite talent. Texas A&M is recruiting like nobody's business right now. And I'll put another statement out there, another summertime hot take. If you look at teams who have never won a national championship, I don't know if Texas A&M has one in the non-modern era or not. Texas A&M will win a national championship. I love Mike Elko. If we were to do a coaching rankings, and I meant to put one out this morning and got tied up, Mike Elko would be my number 2 coach in the SEC behind Kirby Smart.
Okay.
Texas A&M will win a national championship in the next 3 to 5 years. I think they're a quarterback away. A good quarterback away. They are putting together talent. I don't know how Wes feels, but a lot of people feel that maybe Josh Dobson is going to end up there. We'll see. Josh Dobson will make his announcement next week. The 5-star defensive back originally from the state of South Carolina, who's now at, I believe it's Huff High School in Charlotte. But, Tyler, that's the thing. You look at the recruiting class and you go, well, that's nice. That's good. But then you look around at who you're competing with that you got to play now 9 out of your 12 games. And even if you factor in Clemson, who's 11th, and you're like, ooh, we're not staying up to snuff with them.
Well, and the thing is, it's not the end-all, be-all that it used to be, though. If you're consistently, in terms of high school recruiting, 10th, 11th, 12th in the SEC, yeah, that's indicative of what your success on the field is probably going to be. But when you supplement things with the transfer portal now, and we feel really good about what Carolina did this offseason in the transfer portal, addressing needs, filling holes, and all that kind of stuff, that kind of makes up that difference. And you still want to continue to recruit well at a high school level, but it's not everything like it used to be, if that makes sense.
Dave, in my ear, I don't know if it goes into your ear or just mine.
I didn't hear that.
Okay, Dave tells me they have 3 college football national championships. Dave, do you know the years of which they have claimed national championships?
I do. 1919, they went 10-0, outscored their opponents 275 to nothing.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
But considered a split title, by the way.
Coach Dana Bible, they were undefeated but tied one game and were awarded the national title.
By
Dickinson's system. There was no AP back then.
Yep.
1939, AP Consensus National Championship, Homer Norton, and they were 11-0.
Does that count?
See, we're in that real fuzzy area where, like, all right, you had a national championship, but how much do we respect that, right? He's right. You know, prior to 1936, the AP poll didn't exist.
Right.
Then that came along, that started awarding national championships. But then you could, if a random newspaper had a poll and had you at number 1, you could claim that.
Well, what Auburn's claimed like 11.
Yeah, they claimed 11 like overnight.
Yeah.
Right? They awarded themselves like 5 in August last year or something like that. So I always take national championships really pre-80s even.
Okay.
With a grain of salt.
I go 70s.
70s.
I go 70s. I'll at least go into the 70s. 60s is where I start to draw the line of like, all right, you guys are getting a little hazy here.
Because even into the 80s, you still had teams claiming national championships, but there was more of a uniform, like, all right, this team's really the actual national champion, even if you're going to claim the UPI poll or something like that. And it's insane to me. And look, my entire life watching college football, there's always been a BCS or a college football playoff. So to think of the concept that prior to me being alive, it was just kind of accepted, like, yeah, number 1 and number 2 might not even play each other this year. We got these big bowl games, but we don't really have a formal title game. Is insane to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. So no, Texas A&M doesn't have a national championship, but to this point about recruiting. You know, last year you lost Tamarian Watkins to Texas, and I'm not just singling out Texas A&M. I mean, look, in an interesting kind of scenario here, Clemson, who obviously has recruited very well for years, is also missing out on these in-state kids. Now, I know there's still lots of time to flip them, but when you see a David Segura going to LSU, a Jaden Bryant going to Miami, who else am I forgetting that's out of state? We'll see what happens with Nate Carson, who's down to South Carolina and Georgia and is set to make a decision. Again, you're starting to consider Charlotte a little bit more of the state of South Carolina when it actually comes to, I think, football recruiting, and because it's closer to Columbia and Clemson than it is to Chapel Hill. And with that in mind, you know, to me, when you miss out on a guy like Samari Matthews last year who goes to Texas and a few other guys, yeah, it hurts. I believe Nate Kamba is from the Charlotte-ish area, if I'm correct, and that depends now on how wide you want to get with Charlotte. I believe that was correct. He's going to Auburn, and South Carolina really wanted him. You got to land these. I mean, look, realistically, there's only so much coaching you can do at this level now with the way that the transfer portal is. And that, to me, that's where you flip, though. You get those commitments yesterday, and you go, man, okay, great job. Are you going to be able to keep them around long enough to build them up and turn them into somebody by their junior or senior year?
And you also have to make sure you hang on to them until signing day, right? I think we all limit our excitement when guys commit, saying, okay, we still got 4 months until signing day happens. Let's hope we can hang on to them.
803-404-6100. We'll flip over and talk some World Cup when we come back. Tony Annan has finally made time for us. He is finally not ducking or dodging or heading to a World Cup game. He's next. It's the Halftime Show. One day, I'm going to grow up and be a real boy. One day, I'm going to grow up and live life like my idols. And joining us now is one of my idols, a man who has ducked and dodged us, who is living the life, who is out here taking in one of the world's great events, just traveling from place to place to place. The one and only Mr. Tony Annan, who is maybe not in a good mood today. Tony, I got to admit, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was to get a true professional breakdown of what we're seeing here at the World Cup. And I'm not making fun of you, but it's my understanding that yesterday the match you were at up in Boston at Gillette Stadium, home of the New England Patriots, did not go the way that the English wanted it to go against Ghana.
Very true, very true. It didn't go the way we thought it would go, but it's part of the game, as they say. So 0-0, Ghana sat in a low block and broke up the game and didn't really show any signs of wanting to go score goals, but they made it really tough for England, and England didn't work it out. So I'm not in a bad mood, though. I'm sitting in Boston in a coffee shop. You know, I was in Dallas last week, so I can't complain.
There are worse places you could be off of your team. Well, not losing a game, having a draw, but worse places off your team not winning a game than Boston.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just taking it in today.
Well, as I said, one day when I'm a real boy and I grow up, Tony Annan, I've got a poster of Tony Annan on my wall. I want to grow up and be just like him because you're enjoying it. What has this been like? You really have gotten to experience it. You and I have texted back and forth. We were talking about the crowds. You were talking about just the atmosphere when you were in Dallas and Jerry World. I mean, I don't know your experience with World Cups previously, but what have you enjoyed or what have you seen about a World Cup so far here in the Americas?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, you know, given my schedule and the industry I work in, it's really tough to get to a World Cup usually, but this is the first World Cup I've been able to attend. So I'm making the most of it. A lot of my friends were giving me, not stick about it, they were just asking me, where'd you get the tickets from? And I say, I've been in the industry a long time, and you only live once. So I took my family to Dallas and let them experience Dallas, which was incredible. You know, England played really well against a good Croatian team. We had great seats, so it was a great experience for the family. And then this trip was more of a boys' trip. So I've experienced both sides of it, to be fair, but it's been amazing. It's been an amazing event. It's been some great games. And obviously, the big guys have shown up on the big stage.
So obviously, you know, here in America, everybody gets into the World Cup, or most people get into the World Cup to some degree because you're always going to support your home country. But soccer's not the top sport in this country. In a country like England that's more soccer focused, when it is World Cup time, how does everybody treat this, and how into it is the entire country?
I mean, you know, being amongst the English fans yesterday, you know, I'm obviously torn between the US and England because I've been here longer than I've been in England, and I consider myself, you know, a US coach. So it's if you see the fans from England, I mean, the American fans this year have been equally as passionate and equally as into it, and I think it can only help the game, you know, the fandom of it. And even there were so many Americans yesterday that had English shirts on. It's really good to see that they're following, you know, and like I said, I don't think there's a set of fans anywhere in the world that aren't really into this and all paying attention to it. Even I think the US is really into it as well. You've got the Barstool sports guys who don't usually talk about soccer at all. They're all into it, so it's got a hold of the country, which is great.
Let's ask you about the U.S. Right now, as you've seen them 2-0. I don't think they've had many problems. They will advance. They have won their group, and they'll play tomorrow night against Turkey. What have you, when you had a chance to watch them, what has impressed you about them? As it always seems like things are always in chaos, always in flux with the U.S. team. Even now, you got Pulisic, and it seems like something is happening there and a distraction. Yet this team seems to be coming together and playing really well on the pitch. Your thoughts on what you're seeing?
Yeah, I'd like to go back probably a year ago when I was on the show, and you guys asked me about Pochettino, and I think I called it that he would get it together and he would get it to where it needs to be. And I think what you're seeing right now is Poch has got his team playing really well. They're fluid, their attacking style is evident and very purposeful. You've got lads like Freeman, who's a right back, who we actually had on campus, recruiting him a couple of years ago. To see him and what he's doing is incredible. But yeah, I think it's the best US team I've seen in 33 years I've been in the US. It's the best US team I've seen play. It's talented, it's technical. They've got a good tactical plan. They seem to have a really good vibe through the team. Even Reina, who's been controversial, seems to be, in a good spot. So I think Pochettino's done an excellent job. Now, we'll see in the next few rounds when it gets real and they start playing bigger teams. But right now, I think they're in great shape, and I think they look great.
So, with that being said, what do you think the ceiling for this team is? I believe quarterfinals in 02 is the farthest the U.S. has ever made it. Again, you said you'll learn a little bit more as they play some of these teams in the knockout round coming up here soon. But how far do you think this team is capable of going?
I don't know, really. I mean, I think if it was anybody else but the U.S., people would be talking about them hitting the quarters and the semis, the way they've played and the performances they've put in so far. But, the sort of stigma that the world has with US soccer is maybe preventing people from calling it. But I would love to see them, advance to the quarters, semis. It would be so good for the game. And, I mean, they're capable. They're very dangerous going forward. They've got Chris Richards at the back, who has been pretty much perfect almost. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited what they can do, and I'm really hoping that, quarters is the minimum for this team.
Tony Annan joining us just a few more minutes here, and then we'll turn him loose back for his excursion today, enjoying a little time off before you get going. You're not far away from your team really getting going and the season underway for you. But you look at this World Cup, has anybody stood out to you? I was having this discussion last night, and I don't have an answer for it. Has anybody stood out to you to be what is truly the favorite? It always feels like Brazil's a favorite, but I don't feel like that's the way this year. You got certain other teams that always seem to stand out, but I don't know if there's is there a singular team that seems to be head and shoulders above everybody else?
No, I don't think there's a team that's head and shoulders. I mean, obviously, Argentina look really good, and they've got a super weapon, right, with probably the best player that's ever played the game. At 39, and he's producing for them. So, I mean, Argentina's defensively really strong, and obviously in attack they've got special weapons. I like the Dutch. I thought the Dutch were really impressive. The usual teams like your Germanys and your Spains, they'll all come on to a rhythm here soon, and I think each team's packed with talent. So I wouldn't say there's a clear favourite, but obviously Argentina have stuck their neck out a little bit, and for me, they've probably been the most impressive so far.
We talk a lot about guys like in the NFL, like Tom Brady's, the Drew Breeses, the Aaron Rodgers, these guys who are kind of defying age. And we got about a minute left with you, Coach. You just mentioned it, Messi. Ronaldo's 41 and is playing really well. You got the younger guys like Mbappe as well. How impressed with you are with the older guys and what they're doing right now in a Ronaldo and a Messi?
I mean, I'm not a huge Ronaldo fan.
Okay.
He did well against Uzbekistan yesterday, but Messi just defies it all. Like, I mean, people said he shouldn't be in this World Cup. He's too old. I mean, the goal he scored the other night was, incredible. Like, his ability, and people say, he doesn't run, doesn't defend. Yeah, but he'll unlock a game for you when you need it. And I mean, the guy is by far the best player that's ever played the game. That's just my opinion as well. I mean, obviously, but to be playing in this modern era and the physicality of the game and how athletic the game's become, and still being able to tear teams apart and break teams down at that age is incredible. I mean, he's defying age by far.
Coach, we always appreciate. Glad we can finally catch up. You can make time for me that you aren't traveling or attending a game today. Enjoy Boston, and we look forward to having you in studio when you get back in before your season gets going.
All right, I appreciate it.
You too, buddy. You too, and enjoy your travels. Tony Annan there, our World Cup guru and expert, and, of course, University of South Carolina men's soccer coach. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 1. We, of course, here at 107.5 The Game want to do our part and always keep you up to date on the latest news, including the important news, such as what's taking place in Houston. I want to inform you that there's good news to be reported. Gracie, the giraffe, has been found.
She was lost?
Apparently, they lost a giraffe in a community, not like a rural area.
Now, is this a full-grown giraffe?
A full-grown giraffe.
Okay.
My favorite part, this is true. My favorite part of this is that the local sheriff's office appealed for citizens to keep their eye out for Gracie's rounded ears to distinguish from any other missing giraffes.
So that would imply there were multiple ones missing, or is this the only one missing? Because I don't know. If you're like a millionaire in Houston, you could technically have a pet giraffe, I guess. Are those legal to own as a pet?
I don't know, but how many giraffes are wandering around Houston? Does this happen? Are you standing on the street corner and a giraffe like a cat wanders up?
Yeah.
You're just like,
well, you got to make sure it has rounded ears. Make sure that's Gracie. It's like, no, sorry, that's the other giraffe that's gone missing.
For the previous 2 weeks, residents of a Texas community have been looking. What? How do you miss a giraffe?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
They've been looking for 2 weeks for a giraffe that wandered off from a private game ranch. On Wednesday, it appeared free roaming was after it was reportedly found safe a little further out than expected from its hill country home.
Unless it just like went straight to the woods after escaping, because you can get to some heavily wooded areas and you're not out in public view. So unless it was just there for 2 weeks, I find it very hard to believe that nobody at least caught a glimpse of a giraffe wandering around Houston.
Just FYI, good news. It's a sure feel good story of the day. Gracie, the giraffe, has been found.
Also, if you were not aware that this giraffe had gotten out and you encounter this giraffe just while you're out and about, do you feel like you're having a fever dream?
I don't know what I would think. Like if we're just sitting here and a giraffe goes wandering by, I'm like, something ain't right.
Yeah.
Something. I mean, we get at times the blinds will be up in here, and this is especially when I was doing the morning show, and Dawn Staley would go wandering by, walking the dog, walking Champ. Champ would be in a.
I would say walking. Champ's in a stroller.
Champ's in a stroller, but even then I'd be like, how about that? Look at that. I can't imagine how I would react if we were just sitting here doing a show and a giraffe went wandering by, and I was like, oh, well, that's every day. That's normal. But good news. Gracie, a reticulated giraffe native to several Eastern African communities, has become something of a celebrity, no bleep, in the region around Cedar Hollow Ranch in Leakey, Texas. That's about a 2-hour west drive of San Antonio.
Okay.
So, good news. Gracie the giraffe with rounded ears. I also now have learned more about giraffe ears. Like, did somebody look at another giraffe? I was like, no, it's got pointy ears. Let that one wander.
Well, see, here's the thing.
Giraffes aren't native to, like, we don't have giraffes in our country, right?
No, I think they're native to Africa, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't.
Outside of zoos, no, we don't have
right,
them.
Outside of zoos, yes.
You don't have them naturally in the wild here. Now I will look at giraffe ears when I see them because now apparently this is a thing. And I think you got to give Gracie credit. 2 whole weeks going undetected in public, it's actually impressive.
It says it was found way outside of a high game fence and that it's been on a fling, just enjoying the more rugged parts.
Sure.
Of the countryside, the county that it's in. There you go, folks. That's us at 107.5 The Game doing our part to keep you updated on the good news of the day. The Gracie the Giraffe safe return came late Tuesday. Good news reported in San Antonio. So, all right, if you were heading out to San Antonio to look for Gracie the Giraffe, turn around and come on back. 803-404-6100. Next hour, we'll get into some lists. I want to revisit the Nick Harbor situation when we come back that y'all talked about. CBS Sports has an article 5-star busts. Is that kind of, am I being fair with it?
Essentially 5 stars that have yet to live up to the billing. Is this going to be a make or break year for them, essentially?
Right, we'll get into that because I've got some very strong feelings on that. And we'll get into that. A little more list season as well. Even talk a little video games, toughest places to play. A lot to get to. Hour or two on the way. I may be standing corrected. As I was reading the draft story, there are now reports that Gracie, the draft, has not been found. Apparently, we found another draft. Another draft. I'll keep you updated on this. I'm all over this story. Don't you folks worry. It's June 24th.
Did the giraffe go to the draft?
Womp, womp, womp.
I mean, could be a thing.
Tyler, there's a news update coming 5 minutes ago that Gracie has not been found.
Wait, well, hold on. What?
Exactly.
All right, so have we lost the giraffe for a second time, or was it false reporting that she was found?
This is coming from this says a key lead in the search for Gracie the giraffe falls apart in Texas. This was 5 minutes ago. All right, folks. Keep your eyes out.
So what falls, like what?
I'm not sure. We got bad reporting.
Did they spot the wrong giraffe?
Maybe there's two giraffes running loose. Ranch manager Vic Jones said a promising lead recently fell apart after investigators discovered photos believed to show Gracie from last weekend were actually several days older than initially thought.
So wait,
I think this is a real article. I don't know what I'm reading anymore. I've given up on life.
That implies that there's the reporting initially was about it being found before it was actually being found.
Yeah.
We're just going off of, they were spotted. Okay, that's great. And still you have said giraffe in custody. I don't feel like that should be a story yet.
Apparently the giraffe has wandered into, it's called Real County. It's wandered into Real County where there's vast ranches and sparse population. Very smart giraffe. This giraffe is really more like a Jaws. It's figured things out.
Is there a reward for this giraffe?
$5,000, which I feel like is low for a giraffe reward.
I didn't think we'd be talking about giraffes today, but here we are.
I just want to keep y'all updated. Sometimes it's our responsibility here, and at this point in time, Gracie the giraffe takes our full attention. Well, obviously he's gotten my full attention, so I'll keep you more than up to date on this. Please continue to follow along for developing information on Gracie the giraffe. 803-404-6100. Welcome to America. So CBS wrote an article.
Real quick, because, we have all these people here for the World Cup and stuff like that. There's going to be some...
Did somebody bring a giraffe over?
Well, no. There's going to be somebody from some other country that's in the area or whatever that sees this giraffe and thinks, we just let giraffes run wild around here.
That's a good point. That's a good point. They're going to go back home. Mate, did you know that America's just got giraffes running loose?
Giraffes
all
just
over?
In the streets, man. It's crazy.
In the cities. But Gracie wandered out of the city and has made it to the rural, somehow made it to the rural aspect of San Antonio now, where apparently locating a singular giraffe is hard to do. They all look alike. During the previous show, the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, this really, I'm going to go a little overly serious and a little overly dramatic on this. But being a person who did recruiting and listening to y'all talk about Nick Harbor, give us the lowdown. CBS Sports, I can't remember the young man's name, wrote an article, and I don't think it's a malicious article. Let me say that. I didn't come across as malicious, but it's on Nick Harbor.
Yeah, Cooper Patagna of CBS Sports wrote articles titled Bust Alert, 8 college football players running out of time to prove themselves entering the 2026 season. All these guys are former 5-star recruits, and he has a will bust or won't bust assigned to each of them with pros and cons of what's working in their favor and what's working against them as they all enter this upcoming season. And Nick Harbor is a part of this list.
Okay. Very fair. Very fair. I listened to you and Wes and Chris, and let's very quickly recap that discussion. Y'all were of the opinion that he's not a bust.
No.
Okay. What I'm going to say, I say in the nicest way possible, but I have reason behind it, so please listen thoroughly to what I'm going to say. Nick Harbor's a bust.
Okay.
Okay? Nick Harbor's a bust. It's not his fault, and he shouldn't be a bust. But when you label somebody a 5-star, there is a level of production you expect. Now, with that being said, Nick Harbor should not have been a 5-star recruit because along with the tag of when he was a 5-star, even when he was being recruited, everybody deemed him a project. That, well, he's this phenomenal athlete, but we don't know where he's going to play. Maybe he plays defensive end. Maybe he plays running back, or wide receiver. Maybe he's a split tight end. And it's a problem I have with the recruiting industry. Okay, it's not with Nick Harbor. Yes, by 5-star standards, he is a bust. And y'all left out a name earlier, and I think I know why y'all did it because y'all were talking certain positions. You might have been here the other day, or maybe it was last week. All of a sudden I'll get my days confused. I'll tell you this. I think my other hot take is that Jaden Sellers leads this team in receptions and yards this year. Brother combination. I think Sellers was coming on. There's a lot of reasons. I can go back into that if we want. But I think Nick Harbor catches around 30 to 35 balls this year. He'll catch some deep passes,
which will be in line with what he did last year.
Right. I don't expect him. See, everybody's put these expectations on him, being like, oh, Kendall Browse is going to unlock Nick Harbor, and he's going to turn into some kind of beast mode, kind of like Alshon Jeffrey or Sidney Rice or Farrell, just guys who are catching 60, 70 balls a season. I don't see them doing that. Yes, by that definition, by that roundabout definition of whom a 5-star is and what they're supposed to do, yes. But that's unfair to Nick Harbor. This is not on Nick Harbor. Nick Harbor has done a phenomenal job of developing. Mike Furry has done a phenomenal job of developing Nick Harbor. Nick Harbor is turning into a very good wide receiver. If Nick Harbor had been a lower 4-star, this was not a conversation. This is really unfair. And Wes brought up a good point, which was stupid, but it's funny. But it's a good point. He's done no justice by EA Sports.
Yeah.
Making him like an unstoppable force in the game, where if you didn't know who Nick Harbor was and you played with South Carolina, you were like, well, he must be one of the greatest wide receivers ever to play in the sport.
He's almost kind of become this like folk legend. Right? Where, again, you can watch him running track in high school, and he's, a foot taller and bigger than everybody else out there, running these insane speeds. Obviously was trying to get into the Olympics with track a couple years ago, and, all that made him the 5-star athlete coming out of high school. And that's another thing on this list when you look at these other guys, Keon Keeley, Ryan Coleman-Williams, Nico Imaliaba, DJ Lagway, all these other guys were 5-stars at their respective positions. So they played that position in high school, came into college playing that exact same position, and are being held to that standards. For Nick Harbor, it's like, yeah, he's a 5-star, but not a 5-star wide receiver. If we were truly gauging him as a wide receiver coming out of high school, is he maybe a 3-star? You know what I mean? I don't think we go lower than that anymore, do we?
I'd go 4-star.
Do 2-stars still exist?
But no, they stopped doing that because they offended people.
He had no real experience at wide receiver. Right. So we're looking at him through the lens of a 5-star, but it's not adjusted to the position that he's playing. And to your point, he's gotten better every single year. Yeah. He's almost doubled his yardage every single season. Last year, caught 6 touchdowns. A really, really solid and respectable season. And I expect him to be somewhere around, if not a little bit better than that, this upcoming year. But asking him to go get 1,000 yards this year is maybe a little bit much, especially with how much we expect the ball to be spread around. You mentioned somebody like Jaden Sellers that's going to take a lot of catches himself. So I don't know if he's going to be the dominant number 1 guy and, vault himself into being a first-round pick like Xavier Legette did a couple years ago. But as long as he has a solid and respectable season, he's still going to go relatively high in the NFL draft.
Well, you're right. He may go first round because, again, what's going to happen? He's going to go to the NFL Draft Combine, and he's going to test off the charts.
Yeah.
He's going to run a 4-something, 4.3, a great 4.3. He's probably not going to test who was it who was supposed to break the record this year that didn't do it? The kid from Mississippi State. Anyway, that was going to break Xavier Worthy's record. All of a sudden I'm blanking on his name, the wide receiver. But anyway, The point being on this is, like, I find it wildly unfair to Nick Harbor. And part of this, too, is for the University of South Carolina, when you land a 5-star from out of state, it's a huge deal. You know, Darius Gray was a huge deal. Nick Harbor was a huge deal because South Carolina historically never lands 5-stars from out of state.
And you beat Oregon at the last second to do it.
You did. And technically Maryland.
On national television, no less.
And there was a great pickup. And Nick Harbor has been very good. And again, I don't want to take away anything that he has done because you're right. Nick Harbor has come along at a great pace. He has done what he had to do to become a good football player. I hate to say it like this, but he gave up track. You're right. Last year was a very good year for him. What was it? It was 26 catches last year, I believe is the number.
It was 30 last year, 26 the year before.
Okay.
And then about doubled his yardage, more touchdowns. So, again, you're seeing him take those steps forward.
And I think you said it really well. I mean, y'all made some good points. One of the few things that Mike Shula figured out last year, we could run Nick Harbor deep. Lenore Sellers drop back, throw it as far as you can, and Nick will run under it, and there's few people who can keep up with him. And they figured it out, and it worked beautifully, and that's what he is. But it's really unfair to that young man, and then to put him on a list like that really grinds my gears because, again, you're right. He wasn't a 5-star prospect. And the other day I put out the thing on Twitter about the wide receivers and people, the top 5 wide receiver people got into it about, well, Nick Harbor's not this, and he's been a bust. And he hasn't been a bust. Nick Harbor's been a very good wide receiver. But he's never was a 5-star. But if you want to label him a 5-star, if that's what we have to do, okay, then yes. Yeah, he is. That's unfair. It's unfair. It's wildly unfair. And it bothers me that's the label he gets when he's put in more work. He's put in more work and developed better than probably 90% of the wide receivers in college football. And that's fair to say because of where he was when he arrived on day one.
Yeah.
Because there's a rumor. It's not – nobody will really speak to it. There's a rumor that he didn't know what he was doing so badly that he had his shoulder dislocated in one of the first practices because he didn't know how to come off the line of scrimmage and somebody jammed him and popped him because he wasn't really prepared.
Sure. Yeah, that's believable because, again, it was a position that he didn't know anything about playing. And I remember going back to that 23 season, we were trying to slow roll everybody saying, hey, it's going to take a while for this guy to come into form as a wide receiver because it's not a natural position for him. And, again, he played sparingly that first year, but year number 2, especially as he fully committed to football, probably for the first time in his athletic career because he was always doing the track stuff in the spring. You've seen him come along and make those steps, and that's a credit to Mike Furry as the wide receivers coach for bringing him along these past couple of years and getting to the point where now we expect him to have an even better season in his 4th year here at South Carolina. But, yeah, unfair to put him in the same grouping with these other guys because, again, they were all 5-stars at their respective positions, and that's the standard they're being held to, where Harbor's not the same way.
And I don't want this year – because, again, you're right. I had 26 catches in 2024, 30 this past season. I don't want him to have 35 catches this year, increasing his workload, and maybe have 700 yards, and people be like, never lived up to it. Well, no, he never lived up to 5-star. He never lived up to a status that he should have never been from the get-go.
Now, if his numbers go down, right?
I'm not going to blame him for that.
Well, again, it depends on how much the ball's getting spread around, I guess.
That's my point.
Yeah, now if he's dropping the ball a bunch and stuff like that, that's a different kind of thing. But, I don't think he has to go out there and haul in 12 touchdowns and have 1,000 yards for the season to be successful for him.
803-404-6100. We'll get into a few other things, including some more lists, the toughest places to play in, according to EA Sports College Football. Something kind of interesting about that, and we'll kind of joke about that. Don't worry. We'll keep you updated on Gracie the Giraffe. We got a public issue going on here down in San Antonio. We'll get to the bottom of that as well. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. You know the company. I talk about them all the time, and I talk about them because of how great they are, being the leader in your industry. I don't care what your industry is, but when you're the leader, the proven leader for over 30 years, man, you're doing something right. And Mid-State Roofing has been that way. And the reason is customer service, the way they treat you, the customer, being there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, making sure that when we have these heavy summer thunderstorms, you know they're coming, these heavy summer thunderstorms, that if you have a leak in your roof and it occurs at 2 a.m. and now you got to make sure that you don't have a complete mess on your hand, they are there for you. Give them a phone call. You speak with an on-call technician, 803-356-1919. And then their professionalism, the way they come out, they clean up, they help you with the situation, and they make sure that it'll never happen again. That is why they've been the leader for over 30 years. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Remove in your mind, because we're all homers, but there's no doubt in my mind, Williams-Brice Stadium on a Saturday night, towels, sandstorm, trains, 2001, toughest place to play in the world. No soccer stadium. What's that soccer stadium that, did you ever see that video of that soccer stadium that Tony Ann, like, I got to show it to you. I got to find it. I don't even know what country it's in. and you walk down like the corridor going to the field, and there's like literally about to go to war, armed guards on either side.
Oh.
And then you go out like the fans are setting off firecrackers, and there's a fan, there's something, I can't remember. I got to show it to you. He showed it to us, and I was like, oh my goodness. But being biased and being a Gamecock fan and having grown up here 43 years and having watched Williams-Brice evolve and what they do there, there's no doubt in my mind Williams-Brice is the hardest place to play in America on a Saturday night when that place is bumping. So let's all remove that from our mind for a second.
Okay.
Let's be unbiased for a second. What would you go with in this country in college football as the second toughest place to play? Now, I don't know how many you've been to. I've been to a lot. I've been blessed. I've been to a lot, and for me, it's time to start expanding outside of the SEC and the ACC and attending other games. So I admit some of what I'm going to say is a little is a little without merit from the fact that I haven't been there. I haven't been to Penn State. I haven't been to Oregon. But anyway, with all that being said, Tyler, we start looking at EA Sports. The college football has their list out of the toughest places to play on their game. Mm-hmm. LSU's number one.
Yep.
I've been there. I've been there twice. I've been there for a night game, and I've been there for a day game, or a 3:30 game. Where would you go with the toughest place to? Where do you think in this country? Probably go at night. Probably at night. Big game. Toughest place to play.
It's probably Tiger Stadium, and I feel like that's kind of universally accepted. I mean, this list comes out every single year, and I think every single season, LSU's been number one. And again, I feel like, because anytime you put out a list, especially one like this, it's always controversial. We should be ahead of them, we should be behind them, or they should be behind us, whatever it may be. But I feel like most people kind of look at it and say, yeah, LSU being the toughest place to play makes a lot of sense. Like, I just kind of think that's one of the few things that most college football fans probably agree on.
Why do you think that is?
I think for one, structure. It's 100,000 people. It's a full bowl. There's nowhere for the sound to escape. And again, I've never been there. I'm just going off of the optics from what I see on television. Obviously, you have a very passionate, rowdy fan base there in LSU. I just think all this, much like Neyland Stadium as well, where it's just feels like it just goes up and up and up and up and up. And the sound's just kind of trapped in there. I feel like that creates a raucous environment. And again, it has this mythicality to it, it's where dreams go to die. They used to have the tiger on the sidelines. Yeah. Les Miles was eating grass there years and years ago. Like, it just has so much lore behind it. I feel like that adds to the mystique of what Death Valley is.
102,321 people is what it now presently sits. I've been there. I will agree with you. I've been to Florida for a night game. I've been to Georgia a ton. Neyland Stadium is interesting, but not scary. LSU, you're right. That is, I want to go to Oregon. Oregon's supposed to be loud, but it seems like fun. Penn State is the one that I'm really interested in to see what it's like there for a night game, because that stadium is humongous, and I've seen videos of it, and I think when they're really rocking and rolling, that might be one. Texas A&M, I think, has got a lot of potential. Texas A&M Stadium is also humongous, and those fans, but they're too nice.
Yeah.
I think Texas A&M fans are nice. Like, they're overly nice. That is actually, I think, what stands out about LSU. This isn't a good thing. Like, you can legitimately be fearful for your life in that particular Death Valley. Like, that place, I'll never forget going in 2002, I believe it was. And that was one of Nick Saban's teams. And South Carolina goes down there and they jump out to the big lead. James Atkinson has a touchdown pass that would have put South Carolina up 21-3, and I think they would have won that ball game if he caught that pass around the goal line, and instead he dropped it. South Carolina never recovered, and Dondrell Pinkins, was it Pinkett? No, I think it was Corey Jenkins, threw a pick six in the second half, and that place exploded. And but before the game, Tyler, everybody was so nice. Hey, you want crawfish? You want a beer? You want a drink? You want what do you want? And then you go into the stadium, and if it wasn't nailed down, and even then, it was coming at you. And I saw a guy in a full-on Boy Scout outfit pour from the upper deck a cup of dip on a South Carolina fan.
Yeah.
And that went about as well as you want. There's also kind of like a haze, almost like a bourbon haze somehow, that engulfs the stadium. It is a wild. I would gladly go LSU Clemson to open the season. Clemson fans, I will encourage you. I'm not telling you to go down there fearful for your life, but I will tell you, if you want a football experience, and the tailgating there is also, to me, second to none. But I will go with LSU as number one on that list, because you're right. The structure of the stadium, the landscaping of everything around it, like, it is a mythical type place. And I was watching one of those SEC Saturdays in the South, and one of the guys that did it, one of the LSU players that comes out and talks about when you come on the field, one of the first things you smell is just bourbon in the air. And you're like, yeah. I mean, like, those fans, they live, breathe, eat, sleep, whatever, LSU football. You know, around here, even though this is what we got, maybe you're into the Panthers a little bit, maybe you like the Falcons, maybe the Braves or something. I mean, those fans the Saints are so far secondary to those people.
Oh, listen, they would sell the Saints off for a first down against Alabama.
I mean, it's so I'm with you. I saw that, and it is a really, and I'll tell you this, it needs to be on your bucket list. I would preferably tell you to go when your team's not playing, so you can wear purple or gold and fit in with them. But I will go with that for number one. And do you have a number two on your list? Because when you start to go down after that, I thought this list got kind of interesting.
Yeah, and look, I think a lot of it has to do with how successful the team is right now. Now, it's interesting that Penn State's up there because they didn't have a good season last year, obviously, but I feel like you can make a lot of cases for Penn State, for Ohio State, for Texas A&M. Like, I don't think there's a clear-cut line of like, okay, this is probably the second toughest place to play.
So here's where I want to disagree with this a little bit. I tell you what, let's hit a break because we got about 2 minutes left, and we'll come back to this. I want opinions out there. If you've been, aside from our good buddy Saki, his opinion doesn't count. He's an Ohio State guy. Your opinion doesn't count, Saki. Wherever you're at this afternoon, you're out of the equation. Ohio State's number two. I have never in my life heard of Ohio State being a tough place to go and play. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard, like...
Not really.
Okay, and that's where I want to go with this.
And
because
more often than not, they're not really playing tight games in their stadium anyway, outside of, like, Michigan.
I want to go to that. I've never heard of Ohio Stadium being a tough place to play. And we'll go through this list because number 5 on here couldn't be more wrong if they tried to. I'll tell you about that. I'll explain who that is when we come back. You're listening to The Halftime Show. 1:33 on a Wednesday as we kind of roll along here. We've been talking a little World Cup with Tony Annan. A lot of World Cup matches kind of later this evening tonight. We'll get back into that little schedule here coming up here in just a little while. Some good matches last night. I'm trying. I feel like I'm trying, but I'm having a little bit more difficult time getting into it than I thought I would. Croatia yesterday 1-0. Well, last night over Panama. I was told that was an important game, or that was a really good one. Then late last night, you had another one that was supposed to be really good that I did not stay up for. In that game, that was between Colombia and Congo. Colombia won 1-0 in that one. I really haven't looked. I know that we are advancing. That's kind of what matters the most,
right?
I reckon that we will be advancing out of this thing. Mexico will be advancing. There's some other big time matches that need to take place, but we're advancing, and that's all that matters. And we'll keep you updated on that. But I don't know. I've tried, Tyler, to get in the World Cup, but it was enjoyable talking with Tony Annan just a little while ago and catching up on that. We've also talked about an article CBS Sports wrote basically talking about 5-star players that need to step up this year, or I guess to put it fairly, they'd be labeled a bust. Is that?
Yeah, that's what the author of the article was saying, was like, hey, will this guy bust or not bust? Again, other guys that are on that list, DJ Lagway, Ryan Coleman-Williams, who really, after his amazing start to his college career, really fell off a lot to where he's almost kind of irrelevant in a lot of people's eyes now compared to what we thought he was going to be. But again, all those guys on that list were 5 stars at their respective positions they're still playing, which I think that's fair. Okay, you come in as a 5-star wide receiver or a 5-star quarterback out of high school, we're going to hold you to a certain standard of what your college career should be, and if you don't do that or don't achieve that, we're going to say, okay, maybe you're a bust. But again, Nick Harbor's such a special case and a special scenario, and like you said earlier, it doesn't help out that he has this, like, lore behind him. His commitment was on national television. He flipped from Oregon to South Carolina, which in today's world of college sports isn't something that probably should happen a whole lot. You have the video game thing, you have the track stuff. Like, he's just almost become this mythical figure in a way in college football that people are like, man, why isn't that guy more successful at being a wide receiver yet?
And it's not my hot take on it, having done recruiting, is he was done a massive disservice. He should have never been a 5-star. And it goes back. I'll go back before your time, Tyler, and I was going to call you Wes or Chris because I think I'd be interested to hear their take on this, and it might just be something, if y'all circle back this tomorrow, you ask them about the Chris Culliver recruitment, where Culliver was an elite-level safety coming out of Gardner High School in North Carolina. South Carolina lands a commitment from him. Well, Culliver basically goes to Spurrier's like, well, I want to play wide receiver in your offense. And Spurrier, doing what Spurrier would do, is like, yep, all right, wide receiver it is. Go, let you play.
Okay.
And he's never played. Culliver's never played wide receiver, or at least never done anything that's an actual wide receiver, responsibility. Aside maybe run, hey, Chris, run really fast down the field. We're going to just throw it up. You catch it. And so, but all of a sudden, I think it was Rivals just like, nope, he's a 5-star. Yeah, he's a 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he wasn't a 5-star, and South Carolina let him play wide receiver for 1 year before they're like, hey, buddy, safety. Let's go on back on over there and let you do that. And he would go on to have a cup of tea with the San Francisco 49ers. Harbor had no business being a 5-star, and that's not his fault. That's not his fault at all. But then we were treating him like one, and I'm going ahead and trying to prep y'all for this, and I hope I'm wrong. But I would put the over-under on passes caught by Nick Harbor this year at 35, right around that number. Because I think, and I don't think that's going to be because, well, Nick Harbor can't catch the football or anything, but that's because I think you're going to see the ball spread around to Jaden Sellers and Nitro Tuggle. It wouldn't surprise me to see Mazeo Bennett have a renaissance. Look,
I think there's a lot of buzz around DJ Black, too, in spring, that he could be somebody that could grab some catches, too.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some guys that come out of look, you've got some young guys. Malik Clark is a guy that a lot of people love, just didn't get the chance last year. I don't know how he can fit into the rotation, wide receiver. Donovan Murph is the guy that y'all that I heard Wes, and he's right. Donovan Murphy's a guy who kind of came on some last year, who could explode onto the scene this year. So there's a lot of wide receivers. I don't expect it just to be to drop back and throw the ball to Nick Harbor. So when he only catches 35 balls, which would be the most he's caught in his career, he's gone from 26 to 30 for, say, 700 yards. I don't want anybody being like, well, God, that guy never lived up. No, he didn't live up to 5-star potential.
Sure.
Not going to argue. He hadn't done that. He's not going to do it. But he lived up to a kid who got better and better and better every year and is going to go to the NFL and make a lot of money, because one of y'all said it on the previous show, there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 NFL scouts. They're going to see him at the combine, and they're going to start drooling.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very good chance, even if he has a 35-catch season, that somebody takes him in the first round because he's 6'5", because he runs like a gazelle, because some NFL franchise goes, like people do in relationships where they see bad people with red flags, go, I can fix it.
Yeah.
I can make that work.
Wait till we get our hands on him.
Yeah.
And if nothing else in his NFL career, obviously you have the ability for, those long ball type of plays, but he's somebody that commands attention. Right. So you're in the NFL and, maybe you're the 2 or 3 option, but guess what? They're still going to maybe want to put their best corner on you because they're going to need somebody that's going to keep pace with you down the field. Well, guess what? That frees up your other guy to go out there and make plays, running more complicated routes or whatever it may be. So, yeah, he's going to have his career at the next level. And, again, we'll see how high he ends up going in the draft next year. But, yeah, it is unfair to place him in that box with these other guys that are, again, featured on this list because it's a different situation with him.
I think a lot of y'all remember, to me, and I was young, so maybe these stats, maybe he did more than I remember, but there was a guy in the 90s that played for the University of South Carolina who I don't remember doing very much, and his name was Marcus Robinson. And I'm looking at it now. Marcus Robinson had 37, if I'm looking at this right, had 37 career catches for South Carolina his career. His senior year had 21 catches for 505 yards and a touchdown. Well, he was drafted in the 4th round by the Chicago Bears and ended up having a nice little NFL career. And he just never really blossomed at the university. For whatever reason, never blossomed. He got to the NFL and ended up being a perfectly good wide receiver for quite some time, and we'll see if that kind of pans out. We're also talking about, just kind of laughing about the EA Sports, college football's toughest places to play. So we're in agreement. No questions asked. LSU's number 1. I don't. Ohio State's number 2. I don't know where that. I just, guys, folks, ladies, anybody, have you ever heard of Ohio State being a tough place to go and play? And you brought up a point. You don't see a lot of close games there.
Well, they also play at noon every single time now.
That's a great point, too, by the way.
They don't have any night games anymore.
I've never heard of, it's kind of like Michigan. I've heard Michigan's the quietest 100,000 people that you can stick in a stadium anywhere. Doesn't mean it's not a great stadium. Doesn't mean it's not a lot of fun. Just not an intimidating environment to go and play football in it. Ohio State has never struck me as that, much like, say, and I'm not even going to go SEC, much like, say, a Beaver Stadium at Penn State, where it just looks, because Ohio State Stadium is huge. It's massive.
Yes.
But it just never has struck me as a intimidating place to go and play.
I think the same kind of rule applies to Alabama, at least during the Saban era, where they pretty much never lost at home. A lot of those games weren't close. You're kind of getting the benefit of being a good team. Your fan base. Nick Saban was getting onto his fans for years for leaving games early because they'd be up by 3 touchdowns on Arkansas. All right, we're not losing this game. Let's go get the start on Saturday night or whatever it may be. So I don't think it necessarily correlates to being a tough place to play because the crowd isn't as raucous, because they don't have to be.
Alabama fans are too nice. The ones I've encountered, I've been to Bama 4 times, I believe. I've seen South Carolina lose in 2000. I've seen them win in 04. I've seen them lose in the Mark Ingram game, and I was there 2 years ago. I've been there 4 times. I've seen night games. I've seen day games. One of the nicest fan bases I've ever encountered. Just super nice. B, you're right, and I know it's South Carolina, and I'm not picking on South Carolina. And I know South Carolina does not draw the same kind of attention of when Tennessee comes in or LSU comes in or Auburn comes in, and you don't have that kind of dislike and that kind of intensity. But Bryant-Denny Stadium, beautiful stadium, very clean, very nice. All the upgrades look fantastic. We had great seats a few years ago. I took Austin. I took my kids. It was one of the first road. It was their first road trip. The tailgating was fantastic. Everything was so cool about it. Loved it.
Yep.
Beautiful place. Great start for my kids on a road trip. And South Carolina almost won. Blew that game. But it wasn't. It's not intimidating. I've never been to Bama, and I was there when South Carolina had them on the ropes, and we kept throwing jump balls to Alshon Jeffrey in the corner of the end zone in 08, I think, or 09.
09.
And, Bryant Denny has never – I wouldn't have Bryant Denny in the top half of intimidating football stadiums in the SEC, and I've been to all of them except Missouri and Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, just because you're a really good program doesn't mean that necessarily that your house is a really tough place to play. But again, you see a lot of these teams towards the top of this list. It's for a video game, so we're not making this out to be law or anything like that. But for the purposes of what it is, a list, it generates interesting discussion.
No, that's where we're going with it. We'll finish up this conversation when we come back. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Tomorrow on the program, we might get into this. If you are a member of Gamecock 247, the 24/7 sports site, Gamecock 247, Hale McGranahan has posted an article. I'm kind of reading it during the break, just going back in time to the Marcus Lattimore recruitment. And I'd never heard this story until I'm reading it now, and I encourage you to go and read it if you got a subscription. Marcus Lattimore one time committed to Clemson. I don't know what that means to you, Tyler, but for a lot of us, to go back to those days, and that's when I was fully invested in recruiting. I'll never forget having a phone call with Marcus Lattimore after a visit to Auburn, and he named him his leader. And I'll never forget, what Marcus Lattimore meant to Steve Spurrier in South Carolina at that point in time in trying to build the program for South Carolina. And I'll never forget, and I remember Marcus, who I had a very good relationship with, getting him on the phone and saying, and I remember stepping into my garage with my recorder and my cell phone back in 08 or 07 and saying, Marcus, I'm not going to write an article. Whatever you say is going down verbatim. I said, I'd never forget saying, Marcus, I'm going to type out my question to you in bold, and I'm going to have your answer underneath it, and that's how that's going to come out. I said, I'm not changing any wording. And he was always very appreciative of that and explained what was going on at that moment during that summer. He would later pick South Carolina, but I would encourage you, I'm not going to give away the article that's out there now, but Hale McGranahan has a really good article. I'm trying to read it right now on the recruitment of Marcus Lattimore. Just something from back in the day. We talked recruiting, and we mentioned earlier South Carolina picked up 2 commitments yesterday. We'll talk about that in hour number 3 and where South Carolina recruiting is, a lot of stuff there. But let's finish up this conversation on stadiums, because you're right. It's a list, and it's EA Sports, and it's college football, and it is what it is. Their list is LSU at 1, Ohio State at 2, Penn State at 3, Sanford Stadium at 4, Georgia. Sanford is dangerous. I've seen some things, buddy. LSU, I've seen some stuff. Sanford, I've seen some, and I've been to Georgia a lot. And I want to take my kids. I want to take my kids in a non-South Carolina Georgia game where we can wear. My family, for those that don't know, is basically Georgia. I'm one of me, my father, my sister are the 3 that went to the University of South Carolina. The rest are from Elberton, Georgia. We're Bulldogs. We were Bulldogs. I've grown up in Lexington and always been a Gamecock. But family retreats over there in Georgia, it's all Bulldog. I have a cousin from way back when that was a stud at Elberton High School who had legendarily broke his foot and kicked a field goal to win the state championship, and then went to Georgia and played. We have my family has a relationship.
What was their name?
O'Keefe, way back in the day.
Okay.
I'm not talking
Yeah.
I'm not talking even the 60s. We're talking before that. But we've got family. Actually had a distant uncle. Everybody that's close we call uncles. But I had a relative who was the team doctor for Georgia for a while in the 80s and in the early 90s. Anyway, so I've been to Sanford a lot. I've seen stuff. Sanford, I actually feel like could be higher up on I feel like Georgia, Sanford Stadium could be one of the top 2 or 3 places in the country that's the most intimidating place to play.
Okay. Now it's the design of it's a little different because it has an opener end on the west end zone, which they have closed off a little bit more now, but it does let the sound escape a little bit more, so it's not quite as trapped in the bowl like you have with LSU and Tennessee. And I've not been to a game since I've been in college, so it's been a while since I've been there. But I've heard it plenty loud in the games that I've been to there.
It's fun. To me, it's a fun environment. Number 5 on the list is Bryant-Denny. I agree. I don't think Bryant-Denny, it wouldn't even be in my top half of the SEC. 6 is on my list of places to attend, Autzen Stadium. I've heard this place gets loud. It's not the hugest. It's not the biggest. I don't know if it's the design, but I've heard it gets absolutely insane in Autzen Stadium. It's on my list of places to go.
Well, and that's a fan base that's very passionate, right? Again, the Northwest corner is a little bit different. The vibes are different up there, but that's a fan base that knows its football, loves its football, and that seems to come out when you watch games at Oregon.
Number 7 on the list is the loudest stadium, maybe the second loudest. LSU is the loudest. But I'll say this, one of the loudest environments I've ever been in was in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in 2006 right before, I believe it was Ryan Suckup, went to kick the field goal against Florida in that 17-16 game, or maybe 16-14, whatever the score was, that South Carolina lost up there, that was blocked by, I believe at that time it was Jarvis Moss, maybe, I can't remember. But Ben Hill Griffin, that's a unique stadium. Now they're talking about doing the enhancements to it. Very, very, very loud stadium.
Mm-hmm.
8 is Neyland. Yeah, that gets loud. I've never thought it was overly intimidating, but it gets loud. 9, no, it's Clemson. Sorry, I'm biased. Clemson, you're quiet. You're kitty cats. It's not bad. I've never been overly impressed with Clemson, but then again, I'm biased. And 10 is Kyle Field, which, yes, I was there for a 38-3 thumping. I didn't get to feel the full experience.
Yeah.
We'll come back. Hour 3 on the way. Hour number 3 on a Wednesday as we truck along here, as kind of covering a bunch of different topics this afternoon. We've spoke with Tony Annan way back in the first hour just about the World Cup and what has been taking place. It really, from my understanding, it really has been a fun World Cup. I don't know how many of y'all have truly gotten into it, have gotten invested, or staying completely up to date. I'm not picking on him. I know Jay Phillips is, and Jay is much more equipped to talk about it than I am. I have tried. I've watched some. I've watched the United States matches, but I haven't latched onto it like I have at other times in my life. And I really don't have an explanation for that. But it's certainly something that has kind of gotten us through the summer. But thank you to Tony Annan, who he's been having fun. He's been traveling all over and taking in games and getting his quick vacation time before a very big year for him. It's a huge year. We talk about football and 4-8 and hot seat for Shane Beamer and this and that and what the future holds. We talk about Lamont Paris and what the future holds, and now the new era of Kevin Schnall. Man, you look across the board, and I'll even throw an Ashley Chastain Woodard in there, who's had 2 good seasons to open up. Year 3 is huge for her. I mean, and I'll throw Coach Annan in there as well. Given what's taken place over his first few years, this has got to be a big year for him. South Carolina athletics as a whole, folks, is at a crossroads. If you've listened to this show and maybe you think Gunner's being overly dramatic, he's trying to fear monger a little bit. To Bill Gunner, looking at college athletics, we are on the precipice of the complete new age of however it's going to go, whether that is football separating from everything else. We kind of discussed it yesterday that the NCAA really has no control over college football. They try to govern it, but I don't, quite frankly, Texas Tech, as Texas Tech was going to do, could say shove off. Your rules don't apply to us. What are you going to do? You're going to keep our football team out of the NCAA basketball tournament? You can't technically keep us out of the college football playoff. You don't run it. I say this because I don't know where college sports is going, but we're heading for something massive and major, Tyler. And it all circles back to where is your athletic program when the time comes. We could very well see stuff like soccer and softball. I know it sounds crazy, but softball and equestrian, well, not equestrian because it already is kind of, but turn into true club sports with all financial focus taking place on baseball, basketball, and football. Like if some of these numbers continue to go up and up and up, and some of y'all out there continue to say, I'm not investing in that, where are you going to draw the money to fund a scholarship for swimming and diving or for track and field or, for whatever other sport you want to put out there that South Carolina participates in, men's and women's golf, so forth and so on. College sports is heading, again, toward a complete revolution. And Jay was talking about it a little bit yesterday. I'm still trying to kind of grasp and understand the concept of this new bill that is trying to be passed through. I don't even remember the name of it off the top of my head.
The Protect College Sports Act.
Yeah, the Protect College Sports Act.
There's been a lot of bills. It's okay to forget.
And we're working through all this. And I say that, and to go back to the point, how big it is for programs to be winning right now, because if you get to some of this and they all sit around the boardroom and they go, well, again, we know football's got to win, protect them at all costs. Well, soccer's not winning. Well, how much do we need to fund them? Is this money well spent, or we can take $3 million here and shove it back to football?
Yeah.
this is where we're going, and I don't know. I don't have an answer. I can't wrap my mind around it to come up with an answer for where we're going. And I say that to circle back to, even for Tony Annan, it's a massive year in soccer.
Yeah, and look, with the university presidents and ADs and conference commissioners, they all come out and say the same things. We have no plans to cut any sports. We're trying to keep everything going. I view that as like when a CEO of a company says we're not going to fire anybody, then like 2 weeks later they start laying people off. Like, take that with a grain of salt, because yes, at the moment it's easy to say that. When you really start looking at the bottom line and going, okay, these exports here are really kind of bleeding money out of us, and we can put more resources towards football if we don't have to fund these things, that's when those things do start to get cut. So I would imagine that's not impossible. Again, are we looking at a true exodus from the NCAA? Is it football only? Like, where this goes in the next handful of years decides everything, right? And again, I lean more towards football becoming more of its own thing than everything leaving the NCAA umbrella. But at this point, who knows?
Well, and that's my point. That's the other point of it. Again, football goes away, and doesn't go away, but goes away from the NCAA umbrella and becomes its own strict entity that's not a college sport, but not a professional sport, and so forth and so on. It's just a time where all sports, we might not discuss. It was fun. It's been fun Monday and Tuesday having Rob Bradley on and Merrick Fleming from golf and talking golf. But obviously we don't discuss that. We don't discuss beach volleyball or, the volleyball team in the fall, and we don't discuss the women's soccer team. But all sports are under the microscope when it comes to the budget. And so every sport is in a big year, but certainly for South Carolina, the big four that we pay attention to, the big three, the big four, basketball, baseball, and football, and then obviously the fourth, being women's basketball. There, when you lump them in, how are they doing? What are they? How much are they? What's the revenue there, and how's everything going? I know later this afternoon, because I saw it on Twitter, Jay and them are going to discuss something you and I have already discussed, and that is upgrades to the CLA to continue to try and enhance that, because folks, another part of college sports right now is folks down here battling television product to get you to come to the game and experience the game in person. We're talking about going to these stadiums and everything, going to the environment and scary stadiums. There's a battle going on right now that the TV advertisers don't want you going to the game.
Right.
At CBS and ESPN and ABC, they don't want you going to the game. They want you at home watching on TV.
By the way, I think if you just came out and said we're going to put cup holders in every seat at CLA, this entire fan base would love that.
Yes.
You don't need any more bells and whistles. Just give people a place to put their drink. They'd call that a win.
Yeah, good point.
I find the routine tweet every home game of still waiting on cup holders from that one guy to be hilarious.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so a lot going on in college sports, and one of the rules yesterday that comes out, not official yet, but it's going to become.
It's going to happen.
It's going to become official. Is 5 to play 5. So now, and Tyler, you correct me because I've read through this a couple of times, and I want to make sure I've got it correct. It would start with next year's class, not this year.
Right.
Okay. If I got that right.
Now, for this year's class, you have the option of whatever benefits you the most.
Right. Exactly.
Right. But it is a hard start for the 27 class. Yes.
So starting next August, when the new athletic calendar begins, you will have 5 years to play 5 years. And the way that'll start is it is 5 years from the time that you graduate high school and begin your career, or 5 years from the time you turn 19.
Correct. Whichever comes first.
Which would be interesting because South Carolina just signed in basketball Juan Fernandez, who's 23, meaning he would, I assume, have 1 year of eligibility left as opposed to maybe 3 or 4, whatever he's going to end up doing at the University of South Carolina.
And that kind of seems to be the main point of this rule being made is, and again, it's more for college basketball than anything else, of trying to limit, these European or whatever international professionals coming over at the age of 23, 24, and them having 3 or 4 years of eligibility. It's like, okay, you can come over, but your clock started when you were 19. You're going to have 1 year to play in America.
Yeah, and this will also kind of do away with what is, I guess we could call being used as the loophole for a lot of these lawsuits right now to gain eligibility, and that is the junior college rule, where players are going, wait a minute, I played junior college. That shouldn't count against my actual college eligibility because I didn't have the ability to earn NIL funds through a junior college.
it's still going to lead to lawsuits, right? Like that, they're not exempt from that kind of thing happening. I'm interested to see because, again, there's no red shirt in here, so you won't have medical red shirts or things of that nature. And like Cam McCormick was the most extreme example because he played 9 years of college football between Oregon and Miami, but he had like 3 catastrophic knee injuries. So there's going to be somebody that deals with multiple bad injuries over the course of their career. It's going to get to the end of year number 5 saying, hey, I've really only gotten 2 opportunities to play a year of college football. I need more. And like that's going to lead to a lawsuit. Does that get approved or not? I don't know. And there are already lawsuits being lined up for the student athletes whose career just ended not being grandfathered into this, which my view of that is, okay, your career ended before the rule went into place, right? Like if the rule starts on July 1st, but your athletic career as a college athlete ended, June 1st, I'm sorry, you don't get involved in that. Again, will they win that case? I don't know. We'll see. But that's something that is on the horizon. But for the most part, it seems like this is going to go into effect. And are we going to call them juniors and seniors, or is it going to be year 1, year 2, year 5?
Yeah, we'll call them. Because, we'll see what it is now. Again, one of the major changes here will be the fact that you could play all 5 years. So, if you're a guy who's just a good college player or whatever, you don't have to redshirt and only have 4 years to play 5.
Yeah.
You can play 5 years of college sports and go out. We'll see how many guys really take advantage of that. But, I like it. I like the idea. I'm good with the concept. Is it a slight change to things? Will there be some records that maybe we thought would never be broken that will be broken because some guy plays 5 years and scores 1 million touchdowns or 1 million points for a program that we hadn't really heard of? Yeah, probably so. But the bottom line is it's one step closer. All right, now go about trying to fix the NIL and the transfer portal and the NIL. I don't know how you do that. I feel like the portal's the easiest thing to fix next. There's some rules and regulations on that could easily be solved. 803-404-6100. I'll keep you updated throughout here. Right now, Lamont Paris is actually speaking to the media. I see where Jack Veltri is over there. We'll kind of see if he says anything of what I'd label as major interest here moving forward. At least to this point, nothing major, just some discussion on Marcus Johnson taking place and as well as talking about some of the internationals. We'll have audio of this tomorrow and get a little more deep into what Lamont Paris is saying. But coming up next, we'll get back into some college football. Talk a little. We'll just get a little into it. Dig a little. Put our toes in the water on some expectations that we're coming up with through the first part of June. Still 73 days away from kickoff, but where do we kind of stand? It is the Halftime Show. It is 2:18 on a Wednesday afternoon. Tomorrow, we will start to really get into our SEC previews pre-SEC Media Days. David Waters of Gator Breakdown will join us as we will take a look at what is going on down in Gainesville in the first summer under John Summerall, where we're going to talk expectations for South Carolina, but, for Florida, I don't know what to expect. You get a new offense coordinator in Buster Faulkner, new quarterback down there, new head coach. They are a talented bunch. Billy Napier left them with some players. I'm still circling that game, Tyler. South Carolina, Florida in October down in Gainesville is maybe the most important game of the year for South Carolina. Is the swing game between being something like 8-4, 9-3, and being more close to 5-7.
Well, you look at the way the front half of the schedule sets up, and going on to the road to Alabama is going to be tough. If it's becoming less threatening as the years go by. Let's be honest. And again, Carolina played them tight 2 years ago, and obviously had them run the ropes here. So that's a game that you do have an opportunity to win. But let's say you lose that game, you still feel pretty good about your chances against Towson, obviously, and against Kent State. Shouldn't have any problems with that. You feel like you can beat Mississippi State, should be able to beat Kentucky. That Florida game's a real swing. You either could potentially go into the bye week for your final 6 games that include a ton of tough teams with the exception of Arkansas at either 5-1 or 4-2. And again, every win's going to matter a whole lot, determining on if you're at least getting to that threshold of 6 wins getting back to a bowl game. Like you said, that could be the true swing game on the schedule for this team.
That will lead us to expectations for where we kind of stand here early on. Now, I've put 2 out. I've put 2 big expectations out so far, and let me give you both of those, Tyler, and see kind of where you stand, and y'all are more than welcome. 803-404-6100 to chime in. Last week, one of the things that I put out while Tyler was out, I think Christian Clark by game 4, Alabama, is running back number 1.
Okay.
I think that the way I see this playing out is that Matt Fuller gets the carries in games 1 and 2. Clark gets some. Game 3, maybe you start to see against Mississippi State, start to see more of a 50-50 workload, and I think Clark is going to be the better back of the 2. Why do I think that? Gut. I don't really have. There's nothing. I mean, I went back and watched some of the film or some of the game against Michigan from Texas. I like Clark in that game. I think it was 21 carries for 105 yards. Matt Fuller, I got it. Ran behind a bad offensive line, questionable scheme, all that. I got it. I just think Clark is the better running back, and I think he's going to be the guy that, as we move through the season and into crunch time, he's the guy that becomes the lead back, with Fuller being a very nice change. I'm not trying to put Matt Fuller down.
Sure.
I think you're actually in a good position at the running back spot.
Well, and it's funny that you say that you're like, just kind of on gut feel, because I feel like a lot of things with this team you have to address with almost kind of like a blind confidence, right? Of like, well, I don't know how it's going to happen. I just think it's going to happen. Like, if we're going to go with kind of expectations or things we want to see, I think the offensive line will be better. Can I guarantee that? No.
Right.
But I'm looking at the change in coaching staff with Roger Clemens coming in, who's got a really good track record as an offensive line coach, the experience of all the guys that you bought in from the portal that we expect to be the starting 5, with, I guess, Shed Surratt's the only guy that's coming back that's going to be into that starting 5 more likely than not. And again, they could be awful for all I know, but I'm just kind of going into it with the blind confidence of, yes, I finally think this is the year they get the offensive line figured out, and that will obviously allow everything else on the offense to fall suit behind that. Again, I can't guarantee that. I'm just going off of what I think, and I think that'll happen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, when you say figured out, I don't know if it's going to be figured out. Do I think it's going to be better? Like,
no, it doesn't have to be amazing, just better.
Okay, yeah. The top 10 in the league.
I've said for a while now, if you can cut your sacks in half, they gave up, I think, 43 a year ago. If you tell me they give up in the neighborhood of like 25 instead, that's a marked improvement.
Right.
I will take that all day. I think everybody would.
Yeah.
Again, still about middle of the pack in the SEC, but it's better than you were.
Well, also, when you put that out there, one of the parts to that is that Lenoir Sells doesn't run himself into
that also doesn't
some
help,
sacks,
which he did. He did that a lot last year.
All right. So, but one of mine is Christian Clark becoming the running back number 1 and being the guy who leads the team in providing no injuries, carries, and yardage in year 2 or this coming year. The other one that I put out that we talked a little bit about earlier today again, and this is not a knock on anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm going with Jaden Sellers to turn into wide receiver number 1 for South Carolina this year. Again, I'm not sure if brother to brother is nepotism or not. I probably should be smart and look up the definition of nepotism and should not be accusing either, any kind of nepotism taking place. But I do want to point this out when it comes to Sellers. Jaden Sellers started to come on at the end of the season last year. He finished the season with 22 catches for 337 yards, and he had a touchdown. For those wondering, that was third most on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I say you were third most? Well, remember, he didn't do a whole lot at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he had catches in 5 games.
Well, what I was going to say is when I say he didn't do a lot, he didn't play. He didn't show up until mid-October. And against Oklahoma, he had 6 for 57. Alabama, 3 for 38. 4 for 48 against A&M. Coastal, it's Coastal. Maybe you can kind of throw this one out the books. 4 for 127. And then a 5 for 67-yard game against Clemson. 22 catches, again, over those 5 games. Do the math on that. That's around 4 a game.
Yeah.
That's heading closer to 50 catches a season, and I think the ball's going to be spread around. And part of it is brother-to-brother connection and having grown up played with one another. 2 is I don't think we gave Jaden Sellers enough credit last year for what he was becoming at the end of the season. Again, for the last 3 games alone in November, 4, 4, and 5. I mean, he was starting to get the job done. I think he is the number 1 to go-to wide receiver this year for Lenore Sellers.
Now, those last 3 games also correlate with Mike Furrier taking over as the offensive coordinator, so that could have something to do with it. But you're right. When you stack his numbers up against everybody else and say it was only done in a 5-game sample size, that is significant. And, again, with having the connection with his brother, I'm sure certainly, helps out a lot. And, again, I don't think we've heard Kendall Briles directly talk about Jaden Sellers, but I would imagine with the talent in that wide receiver room, he should be featured in there as well. Will he be the leading receiver? We'll see, but he should get a good chunk of targets this year for sure.
Well, and the question will come back because everybody's going to want to say, well, no, what about Nick Harbor? What all is Nick Harbor capable of doing? Is he capable of running? And I heard y'all talk about this earlier on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Is he capable of running a full route tree? Is he capable of running, the ins and the outs and all the things? And he was getting closer last year. There's no doubt that he was making strides, and there's really no doubt in my mind he'll be able to make those strides again this year and will turn into a competent weapon. My thing is more of I don't think you're throwing a lot of passes to Harbor behind the line for him to take off and try and break down. Now, maybe he's 6'5". Yeah. Maybe you're trying to put him in one-on-one positions. But he's also not a twitchy kind of guy like Jaden Sellers is who can make people miss in a box and take off. I'm going with Sellers to be number 1 wide receiver for South Carolina. So that's my 2 expectations. Christian Clark takes over running back number 1 by game 4. Jaden Sellers is the go-to wide receiver for South Carolina this year.
I don't think those are ridiculous things to expect. Again, we'll see how the season obviously plays out, but there's a lot of things that we're kind of guessing at this point. Yes. But I think those 2 things, there's more juice to the Sellers thing because we have more of a proof of concept. But it's not insane to think about Christian Clark saying, yeah, that guy could end up being the lead back.
Yeah, the other part of the Christian Clark one was with the Matt Fuller situation last year when you looked at him, and I get it. Again, understand we're just having conversation here, so don't get all offended out there. But with Matt Fuller, 72 carries last year, 260 yards. One of those 260 of those yards, 72 came on one particular run, and that was against LSU. It's not like he was out there averaging a whole bunch of yards per carry. Again, offensive line plays a role in that. I'm totally understanding of that. But I'm interested to see what he looks like because clearly his work ethic is great. His concept of what they want him to do in the offense, he understands it. He was named Offensive Player of the Spring. Does that mean something? I don't know. Was it because he had a great attitude and he showed up with a smile on his face every day and went through every drill with 110%? Or was it because he was ripping off long runs in practice against the defense and showing that he could be a guy who might pop it for 7, might pop it for 70. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
803-404-6100. We'll come back and get into a few other topics here as well, including going back to that 5 years of eligibility, as well as a quick look back at the Brendan Sorsby situation from yesterday with Tyler. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
All right, here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I said last week I was in Washington, D.C. We went to Mount Vernon, the estate of George Washington, and they were doing foundation work on his estate. And I kept thinking to myself, man, if only they had Canty Foundation Specialist up here, because I know they would do an amazing job, like they can do for you. If you notice things around your home that are a little bit off, like cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in and above windows and door frames, doors and windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door, you yourself could have serious foundation problems, and that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist come in. Go online to schedule your appointment at cantycanfixit.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate those foundation issues, get them fixed right so you and your family can live worry-free going forward. Again, don't hesitate. Those issues will only continue to get worse. Go online to cantycanfixit.com and schedule an appointment with our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist.
So yesterday, Tyler, you were not feeling your best. Could have been a little bit better, but you get the news. You see the news at some point yesterday that Brendan Sorsby will not go to the NFL. They will not hold, I should say, a supplemental draft just because of him. And I'll give credit to the NFL for this. The NFL deserves, I think, a lot of credit. The explanation that they came back was thorough. It was concise, and not only that, but it was almost a lecturing, if you will, of it was. Maybe I'm taking the wrong approach to it. Maybe I shouldn't care this much, and I'm not sure I do. But it was a lecturing that I think we all felt like was almost deserved.
Sure.
By Brendan Sorsby and his people.
Well, it feels like for the first time since this saga's been ongoing for the past couple of months, he's finally getting repercussions for what he did, right? Because essentially the NFL, and here's the thing, the NFL is not denying him the ability to play in the NFL. He can enter the 2027 NFL draft, but they're saying, hey, we would have to make an exception to create a supplemental draft for you, and we're not willing to do that. As they outline in the letter, he submitted his paperwork basically 3 days before the deadline, without really much sufficient evidence to support his claim on why they should have a supplemental draft. And look, the NFL is a billion-dollar industry. They've got a lot of things going on. They said basically, look, we don't have the time to vet this out, and quite frankly, we're not going to do that. You can train in the offs, you can train in the fall and get ready for the draft coming up next year, but you're not worth our headache right now to go through this process and have a supplemental draft. I'm sorry, but we're not doing it for you. And again, for the first time in this process, it feels like he's truly being held accountable for what he did. Now they're going to pursue legal action, right? Because that's what they've done at every step of this process. But I think they're going to learn pretty quickly the NFL's lawyers are better than the NCAA's.
I think the NFL just, possibly, I don't know. I was going to say, I was about to say that it feels like the NFL has more experience in handling this situation, but I think they've just got more leeway in what they're able to basically say is like, no, you're just not going to be a part of our league.
Well, and they bring it up as well because there's concerns over integrity of the game, which goes back to what everybody was so mad about Texas Tech for not getting through their thick skulls in this process of trying to parade Brendan Sorsby as somebody that needed to play college football this year. It's like, no, you bet on the game while you were on a team. That's a problem. That's something that gets you kicked out of most leagues. Again, the NFL is not denying him the ability to play professional football, but they're saying you're going to have to wait and go through the draft like everybody else. We're not going to make a special exception for you because, A, you didn't submit enough sufficient evidence to back up your claim, and 2, we just don't want to deal with this.
It is something that now we look, I think, to the future. Look, there's no doubt, and again, let's go big picture on this and leave Brendan Sorsby behind on this. As we venture into the new era, so we always talk about the new era of college athletics and portals and NILs and everything. There's a new era now of athletics, professional and amateur, that involves wagering. You know, we're seeing you were in D.C.
Yeah.
I don't think you went over, but the arena there that does both the Capitol, the Washington Capitals and the Wizards, I believe it plays both of them, has a casino in it.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, to get to the arena from the casino, you have to go out and back in. It's not an entrance where you can't go casino through a door into, I'm sure you can somewhere, some hidden door, but technically patrons have to go back out onto the street and around and into the actual facility. I've been to Vegas. Literally right across a 2-lane street from T-Mobile Arena where countless basketball tournaments are had. The Big 12, the Big 12 tournament had no Big 12's in Kansas City. One of the tournaments is there.
Is it the West Coast Conference?
One of them, yeah. But there's preseason games there at T-Mobile. Vegas, the Vegas Knights. I mean, we walked over there, and I openly admit this was 22 or 23, so 3 or 4 years ago. Me and some buddies were out in Vegas. We get Golden Knight tickets. We decide we're going to go to the Golden Knights game, and they're like, well, we didn't have a rooting interest.
Sure.
You're there to watch a hockey game and everything. Well, let's make it a rooting interest. Let's take somebody for, $25, $50, walk back over, and we can cash our ticket. And so, okay. And I am gonna humbly brag for a minute. I know enough about hockey that I'll say we need to take the Islanders. They're playing well. Well, my buddies are like, well, we're in Vegas. We need to take, the Golden Knights, to which I argued profusely, but then wanted to be a part of the group. So I took and we lost. And there's nothing that'll divide a group of four more than the one person who thinks he knows the sport, me, telling the other three who don't know the sport we should take this team.
Sure.
And being voted against, and then we lose. And even if it was $25, I think it was like $50, but even if it's, you're not happy.
Yeah.
Because I can do math on that. And I was like, guys, that's like a lobster roll and 2 drinks for me. I would have. Anyway, point being is there's a casino right across the street. Gambling is intertwining with athletics as we know it. And as fans, I mean, are we following that? Are we monitoring? Do we care? Because I've never done player props, points, rebounds, whatever. But how many incidences have we seen now? 2 or 3 in the NBA of guys getting injured?
Yep.
Quotations, bad on the radio, but getting injured who all of a sudden don't play their whatever it is, and now those minutes, they don't get those minutes, so they don't get the 5.5 points or the 5.5 rebounds or whatever it is, and they can win the bet. Like, we're seeing some intertwining of this slowly starting to take place, and if you're not, and I think, Tyler, you tell me if I'm wrong, we're naive if there isn't more going on behind the scenes that we're just not aware of.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's only the high-profile things that end up, getting caught. And in fact, if we can here, Dave, can we get, this is going to be cut number 2. This is Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show yesterday in reference to everything that's going on with Brendan Sorsby. And I think he makes a really compelling point about the NFL, as involved as they are with gambling companies, not wanting to be involved with gambling itself. Here's what he had to say.
The NFL essentially sent him a letter, and the NFL is declining to hold a supplemental draft. And honestly, something was amiss with this all along, because every time you spoke to people around the league about when the supplemental draft would be and whether or not there would be a supplemental draft, I always got pauses, and there were never clear-cut answers. And like, the commissioner's got to decide to have it. I'm like, what is the issue? Well, the issue is that the league, despite any gambling partnerships, the league really does not want any part of gambling, no matter how serious it is or isn't. And anybody that has any role with that, anybody who has any accusations involved with gambling, even though the NCAA said that there were no integrity of the game violations, the league doesn't care. It's the league's supplemental draft, and the league does not want to create a supplemental draft this year for a player who has been accused of gambling. They don't have enough time to vet it. They don't care that they don't have enough time to vet it. It's easier for them to just say, we're not doing this.
And the NFL, again, for how many gambling companies that are involved with FanDuel, DraftKings, and all that kind of stuff, they still draw a very hard line in the sand with their athletes of, hey, here's what you're not supposed to do. And betting on football as a football player, especially on your own team, violates their rules. And that's exactly what Sorsby was doing. And that goes into saying, hey, we're not going to deal with this.
It's the evolution of everything. 10, 15 years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I don't know, time's evolving quickly on me. You really couldn't just get on your phone and look up the over-under run line on the Braves game tonight. Did the Braves play tonight?
Yes.
They keep playing the Padres.
Yep.
All right. So, if you used to have to know somebody and make a phone call, or you have to physically get on the internet and go to one of the sites. Now, and that was the funny thing about Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech. Texas Tech's like, we got somebody monitoring his phone, and I'm like, guys, it's like Jurassic Park and Jeff Goldblum. Life will find a way.
Sure.
If he wants to place a bet, which if you've got an addiction as he did, 35 days doesn't help. But the point being is, these players, they know it. It's shoved down their throat. Everything that they see. And let's be honest, I mean, you go back, and it's creeping its way. Well, I shouldn't even say it's creeping. It's massively moving into the college game as well. We know college kids want money, and there's only so much NIL money to go around. And the easiest thing in the world is to go to a quarterback of a team who's favored by 33.5 and go, hey, don't win by 33.5.
Mm-hmm.
Win the game. Don't win by 33.5. And you can profit off of that.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
And I think and I'm glad to say that I don't know this. I think in the college game, you can also, can't you, like, you can take a quarterback and you can wager on his over-under on completions, right? Like a player prop. Can you do that in college?
Depending on what service you use. Like Underdog,
sure
I think
somebody.
DraftKings. Yeah, you can. Like, all right, Lenore Sellers, 17 and a half completions in this game. You can go over or under. So, yeah, you can do that too.
It's, the Sorsby situation. Okay, I think let's wrap it up on this with a minute to go. Did we solve anything? Did this solve anything? Or did it just, this is a one-off Brendan Sorsby, ha, 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 you can't play football. Did we solve anything? Because it's coming again, right?
Yeah, I don't think it solves anything. I just think he's finally having to pay up for what he did, right?
It's a one-person deal. We'll have it again with somebody else.
I don't know if we're going to have it to this extreme of an example, but I think it sets the tone of like, hey, you do these kind of things, you're not going to play football right away. Like, again, he's still going to play in the NFL. He's got to wait.
I don't think he will.
You don't think he will?
No, we'll finish that. We'll finish that when we come back. You're listening to the Halftime Show. That'll about do it for us today. We have covered many a topic today. From giraffes, who, by the way, I can't get a straight answer on Gracie. Found, not found. A report surfaced Tuesday night. Gracie the giraffe, for those of you who are just tuning in, is on the loose. Just enjoying life in Texas, 90 miles outside of San Antonio. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, as of 8:30 a.m. this morning, has said Gracie has not been found. The Rio County Animal Rescue Shelter officials have also confirmed this morning the giraffe has not been found. Folks, we have a real live giraffe situation taking place. It is broken free. And if you are in the Texas area and you're listening this afternoon via our streaming networks, A, thank you very much. We really do appreciate you. Pass the word along how great it is. B, if you see a giraffe with rounded ears, I kid you not, please alert the local authorities that Gracie is in your vicinity so we can get Gracie back home to her home ranch.
I feel as though if you see a giraffe with even pointed ears out and about, that's probably also grounds for contacting somebody to let them know about that, because that's still abnormal. Even if the ears are wrong, that means there's two giraffes on the loose, and we got another problem.
For more information on this, of course, you can go to the New York Times, as I'm reading, because Gracie is estimated to be between about 3.5 and 4 years old. Reticulated giraffe, a species recognized for its distinctive clean-lined coat pattern, of course. The giraffe has been kept on the ranch where it was for 3 decades, or for giraffes have been kept for 3 decades. It broke free, and now we've got a giraffe on the loose, just again in 90 miles outside of San Antonio, and at least from what I can read, has not been found yet. So whether it's in a mix with a whole bunch of other giraffes, and again, as Tyler said, if you see one with pointy ears, now I say that if you see one with pointy ears, you let it go.
So that's not the one we're looking for.
Yeah, you just like, oh, we're being invaded by giraffes. I don't know. But we will keep you, trust me, more than you will not find another sports talk radio entertainment show that keeps you more updated on Gracie the Draft than we promised to do moving through. If you think we've covered the Brendan Sorsby situation entirely too much, just you wait for Gracie the Draft coverage 2026. I'll keep you. By the way, again, Gracie's primary distinguishing features, according to the article, the notably rounded ears. I have never once, I have seen a giraffe at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
I can't promise you that I looked at the ears. There you go. All right.
And now you always will.
I will always be looking at giraffe ears.
You're looking at giraffe ears.
I'm going to the zoo.
I didn't realize there were two different ones.
We got giraffes at the zoo, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't let them out.
Now listen, also be careful when you take your children to the giraffe exhibit in the zoo. They can be a little nasty.
Really?
Yes, they can.
Like freaky nasty or like nasty?
I'm just going to leave it at that. I've seen giraffes do some wild things the last time that I went to the zoo here.
My whole picture of giraffes is changing, is evolving in this one day. They know how to escape, and apparently okay. All right, did not know that. All right. Anyway, final thoughts for the day. Brendan Sorsby will wrap this up. This situation's pretty much come to a conclusion. 2 thoughts to wrap it up. He won't play in the NFL. They're going to keep him out because of what you read and what we talked about, what we heard Adam Schefter said. They don't want anything to do with gambling. He's gambled. He's gambled excessively. I just don't see even next year. Brendan Sorsby, I've not read where he is a surefire NFL quarterback. He's a guy who has a big arm. He's a big kid, can throw it a long way, can run a little bit, but he's not a surefire quarterback. I just see the NFL being like, thanks, but no thanks. Go find something else.
And it's a more talented quarterback class next year that he's going to be in the mix with.
We assume.
I'll say this much. If you're Brendan Sorsby, because you're not playing football this fall, you better be on your P's and Q's, man. Because if you place so much as one bet between now and April and May, you're really done.
Yeah,
you might still have a chance to play in the NFL via the draft next year, But what's the question that every team's going to ask? It's about this gambling addiction. And if after you've been rehabilitated, you're still going back and doing that, you've just undone every good thing that you've done up to this point in terms of your rehabilitation process.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And again, one other final thought on that. I don't see a scenario where we don't have another one of these coming down the pipe. So there's that. All right. Tomorrow, again, Doug Turnbull will get into some NASCAR. I didn't see how he did last week. I was tied up with the U.S. Open.
I did bad.
Okay. Tyler did bad. Well, it was your week off. You got to be careful. We're pulling away from you a little bit.
I know. It's getting a little rough, choppy for me.
All right. A lot of fun. Captain Dave, keep an eye out for those giraffes out there. We're second in command over there. I want to keep an eye on that. We got a lot to get to in 2 days to do it. We'll talk to you about it tomorrow.